for being here, and I am ready to talk to the candidates. Are you ready? Ready. Let's welcome to the stage, from the great state of North Carolina, Senator John Edwards. Senator Edwards, welcome. If we can put you right here for a moment. Barb Callbar.
Good afternoon, Senator Edwards.
Good afternoon. Mine's working, yours is not.
My name is Barb Callbar. I'm a farmer from here in central Iowa. The people here believe in community values, the idea that we're stronger when we act together. We think our government should consider everyone, not just the privileged few. And it should enact policies that reflect that belief. But lately, we feel we've been led down the wrong track, whether it was a shameful response to Hurricane Katrina or policies that favor corporate agriculture and leave family farmers in the dust. We have seen this country and go with a go-it-alone mentality that we don't like. We call this the politics of division. But we know, and you know, that America can do better than that. So we have this question for you.
If elected president, Senator Edwards, would you be willing to make the hard decisions that will ensure that we as a country live up to our community values?
I will. That's an easy question. Let me say first a thank you to all of you, the grassroots organizers and workers and social activists in this country. You are so important. We have so much work to do. Here's my view. My view is these powerful interests that both of you have spoken about have taken over the government. They have built a wall around Washington, and most of America is left outside that wall. It is the reason that the poor, the uninsured, the disabled, the disenfranchised voices are not being heard in Washington, D.C. And what we're all going to do together, no matter what, is we're going to tear that wall down. And we're going to empower America. We're going to empower the American people again. We're going to make this democracy work, because what we all do together matters. The times in American history when we have been best and strongest and united as a nation have been those times when our national community stepped to the plate. When we did something about the great moral issue of lifting millions of Americans out of poverty. When we did something about the fact that every night in the United States of America, we have 200,000 men and women who wore the uniform of the United States of America, veterans sleeping under bridges and on grates. The fact that last year we had 35 million Americans who were hungry in the richest nation on the planet. Brothers and sisters, is the United States of America better than this? Are we going to do better than this? And are we going to do it together? That's what this election is about, and that's what this cause is about, and I am in this fight with you.
Thank you very much, Senator. We now are going to be joined by a group of community leaders, the first of whom is going to share a story with you, and then we will have 2 questions of you. Our first community leader is
Virgine Martin. Nice to meet you. I'm Virgine Martin from Bridgewater, Iowa. My husband and I are 4th-generation family farmers. About a year ago, we found out that the 5th largest corporate factory farm in the U.S. was coming into our neighborhood. First thing we did, we bonded with all of our friends and neighbors. As a matter of fact, we had over 400 people sign petitions to say no to this corporation. We had a few people that would told us that we were anti-livestock. My husband and I raise livestock, but we do it the right way, open and free. Our board of supervisors said no to this corporation over and over and over. But when it came down to it, it didn't matter what the people wanted. The rights of the corporation went over the rights of the people. It's not right. And now I have 10,000 hogs with millions of gallons of raw feces and urine that is going to be spread up to 250 feet from people's property. I can't go outside now to play with my grandchildren because of the stench. And I want to know where my rights, my neighbors' rights for clean air, clean water, and mostly a healthy living environment.
Thank you. Our next community leader will ask your first question.
My name is Inez Killingsworth. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, member of Empowering and Strengthening Ohio's People, also a member of National Training Information Center. Virgil's story shows that the corporations have very little respect for the common good. I've seen that in my community in Cleveland, Ohio, but there it's about the predatory lenders taking advantage and destroying the American dream. We believe that the corporations are too powerful and unaccountable. Do you agree?
Should I answer now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I agree. With every fiber of my being, I agree. Listen, let me just say first, in response to these first two stories, we are at the heart and soul of why I'm running for President of the United States. Because what I believe has happened, whether it's factory farms and big corporate farming operations that are driving our family farmers out of business, and you're seeing it every single day, we see it all across Iowa, or whether it's predatory lenders. I was in a neighborhood in Cleveland, in your hometown, a 1 block radius, middle-class neighborhood, 38 houses under foreclosure. 38 houses. The only asset that those families had spent their whole lives trying to produce was about to be taken away from them by these predators. What's happened is these big corporate farming operations and big multinational corporations that are taking over farming in America, these big corporate predatory lending operations, big drug companies, big insurance companies, big oil companies, big banks, big gas companies. Here's the question. We see what they're doing to destroy our land and destroy our environment. We see what they're doing to destroy our people and take away their assets. How long are we going to let these people run the United States of America? When are we going to reclaim our democracy? When are we going to take their power away from them? Just so you know, I've been fighting these people my entire life. Before I got into public life, I spent 20 years walking into courtrooms for families just like yours against big corporations and their big lawyers. And I know from those 20 years that you can beat them, because I went in that courtroom and I beat them, I beat them, I beat them again. We will beat them when I'm President of the United States. We will have a moratorium on the building of any more of these CAFOs or expansion of CAFOs, and we will have a national predatory payday lending law that cracks down on these abusers.
And our next community leader is?
Good afternoon. My name is Kurt Kelsey. I'm a member of Iowa Citizens for Community Improvement. I'm a family farmer and livestock producer from Iowa Falls, Iowa. Iowa Falls is in Hardin County, and in Hardin County we have more factory farms than anywhere in the state. These factory farms they don't display good community values. They pollute the environment. They make it pretty tough on family farmers. But I'm really, really worried about is the future. I'm worried about our kids and our grandkids, our communities in the future. And you know, if my grandson wants to farm, I'd like to have him be able to farm. And now you said that I was supposed to ask you what you're going to do. And you told us that you are in favor of a moratorium. Now, if you are elected and you're going to run this moratorium, I want to know how you're going to get the job done and what you're going to do to help protect family farms, the environment, and our communities.
Well, God bless you, first of all. I've been to Iowa Falls. I've been there many times, as you well know. I know what's happening in your community and what's happening all across this state. And the starting place is we have to actually have a President of the United States that will stand up to these big corporations. Because what they're doing is they're taking your democracy away from you. It's that simple. I mean, everything that's happening is being done for the few, not for the many. Everything that's happening is to undermine our responsibility to make sure that we do what our parents did and what 20 generations of Americans did before us, which was to ensure that we left America and the world a better place than we found it. That will not happen as long as we let big corporations and the very wealthiest Americans continue to run this democracy. What I'm going to do, to answer your question, is I'm going to stand up to these people. I'm going to enforce clean air laws, enforce clean water laws. We will have a moratorium on the building of any more of these factory farms. And I will be the president who uses my Justice Department to enforce these antitrust laws to keep these big corporations from continuing to spread, own everything in America, to vertically integrate. At the end of the day, the question is whether you believe we have a real fight on our hands. I believe we have an epic fight on our hands. I don't think these drug companies, insurance companies, big corporate farming operations, I don't think they're going to give their power away voluntarily. I think what we're going to have to do, we, me, you, the American people, we're going to have to stand up, show a little backbone, show a little courage, and take that power away from them and give it back to the American people. That's what this election is about.
Thank you so much, Senator Edwards, and thank you to our first group of community leaders. I'd like to welcome now to the stage our second group of community leaders who, like the first, will share their story and ask questions. Our first community leader is
You got some fans.
Senator, my name is Ahmad Rahab from Chicago, Illinois. I'm from the Council on American Islamic Relations in Chicago and the Illinois Coalition of Immigrant and Refugee Rights. As a full-time civil rights activist, I receive hundreds of complaints from American Muslims regarding the sort of abuses and prejudices and discriminations that they face on a regular basis simply because of their name, physical appearance, or faith affiliation, whether it's housing discrimination or employment discrimination, or having to wait 2 to 5 years over the average time limit in order to obtain their citizenship. Sadly, it seems that we're facing a culture of fear-mongering that is replacing our collective constitutional vision for equal opportunity for all. Senator, in the 60s, Malcolm and Martin gave up their lives fighting for justice for all. The civil rights movement is not over. It's not done yet. We're still fighting. Senator, fighting the civil rights movement is what I do on a daily basis, and we would like to know if you will fight with us if elected president. Thank you.
And the first question comes from community leader
Erica Fernandez from Oxnard, California. I'm a leader from a cause and affiliate with Gamel. As Ahmed said, we're not making progress on our vision of equality and justice for all. My community is close to 70% Latino, mostly immigrants. My community are breathing a polluted air, which comes from pesticides from the agriculture next to houses and schools. My community is also affected by the radioactives of power plants that are going into our water. Earlier this year, we fought a multi-billion-dollar gas company from coming to our community and creating more pollution. This company added 7 more miles to their project because they didn't want to impact the rich communities. Racism is dividing not only racial, but also religious and class lines. It determines where we live and what kind of air we breathe. Senator Edwards, do communities like mine and people like me does not deserve a clean and healthy environment? Our vision is equality and justice for all. Edwards, what would you do to make your vision a reality so we're all in it together? Thank you.
Now I answer. Thank you. Thank you very much, both of you, for such a passionate, heartfelt, and emotional presentation. I want to speak to both issues that you raised. Environmental justice is an enormous issue in this country because anyone who's paying any attention knows that when environmental degradation is occurring, when we have dirty air, dirty water, pollution, that the people who are most likely to get affected by it are the poor, the immigrants, the African American community. We know who's most likely to suffer the brunt of that. And this is what I mean when I say we got to retake our democracy. I mean, if you actually believe in equality in America, and I grew up in the segregated South, and it had a huge impact on the way I view the world. I was raised to believe what I suspect every one of you were raised to believe, that my father worked in mills all his life, and my father taught me to believe that the men and women who worked in that mill were worth every bit as much as the man who owned the mill. And that's true in the United States of America. And anybody living in this country is entitled to breathe clean air, to drink clean water, to have an environment that's safe for them, for their children, and for their families. And not only that, we got to stop this racial profiling that's going on in the United States of America. And we got to change the entire atmosphere. Here's what I'll do as president. I will close Guantanamo, which I think is a national embarrassment. We will have no more secret prisons, no more rendition, no more, and I use this word intentional, no more illegal spying on the American people by the President of the United States of America. And then finally, it's so heartbreaking that we have a debate in America about what kind of torture is permissible. I have an answer to that. No torture is permissible in the United States of America. And those are all things that I would do as president.
Thank you, Senator.
Welcome.
Our next community leader is?
My name is Malik Whitaker, and I am from Columbia, South Carolina. Hello, neighbor.
Good to
How
see
are
you, brother.
Good to see you. Incarceration is becoming our only urban policy. We have over 2 million of our citizens are in prison, mostly people of color. With things like racial profiling and unequal sentencing, it is destroying communities of color, destroying whole communities of color. Families are being destroyed. Families are being destroyed. So as a president, what would you do to end racial profiling, to end unequal sentencing, to bring forth equal justice for African Americans, Muslim Americans, African Americans, and immigrants in this country?
Well, thank you, first of all. And I'm glad to see a young man from Columbia. I was born in South Carolina. I know all about South Carolina. And I know you know what I'm talking about when I talk about growing up in the South. You know it very well. I think we have enormous work to do to end the disparities. I've already talked about the fact that as President of the United States, we will aggressively ensure that racial profiling ends in the United States of America. Second, we're going to do something about these mandatory minimum sentences. How long does it take for America to understand that we can't build enough prisons to solve this problem? The problem is one of opportunity, fairness, equality. It's about creating jobs in poor communities. It's about real universal health care for every man, woman, and child in America. It's about raising the minimum wage, not just to $7.25 an hour, but to $9.50 an hour, which is where it ought to be. It's about strengthening the right of unions to organize so that working people can actually support their families. It's about changing the laws to get rid of the disparity between crack and powder cocaine that has a direct impact on the African American community. And then finally, it's about creating an infrastructure for success so that if in fact a young man or young woman has a brush with the law, that we actually help them turn their lives around. How can we be surprised when somebody gets into trouble, goes into prison, comes out, and we send them right back to the same environment that got them in trouble to start with. We need to help them with drug and alcohol counseling and rehabilitation. We need to help them with job training. We need to help them with education. We need to do all the things that support them and support their families. It is America's moral obligation to do that if we believe in an equal and just America.
Thank you so much, Senator. We have one final question for you, Senator Edwards. If you were elected President of the United States, would you agree to a meeting during your first 100 days with a delegation of representatives from the Campaign for Community Values?
Yes, I'll do it in the first week.
First week commitment.
Is this my last response?
Yes.
All right, I want to say something to this group. I want you to know that what all of you work on and devote your lives to so much of your lives to, is the cause of my life. You know, whatever happens in politics, I believe so deeply in our moral responsibility to first end the suffering of 37 million people who wake up every day worried about feeding and clothing their children, to do something about 35 million people who in the richest nation on the planet last year went hungry, to do something about 47 million Americans who are worried sick their child is going to get sick and they'll have to go to the emergency room for health care. This is the great moral responsibility that we face. Not just politics, not just an election. The question is, will we leave America and the world better than we found it? It is not just an election in politics, it is the great moral test for our generation. With your help and as your president, we will meet that test. God bless you all. Thank you for what you do. Such a privilege to be here with you. Thank you all very much.